Gangs, mobs, and violence have taken many names around the world. In Japan, it is the infamous Yakuza. Although these people exhibit a white-collar image, their activities can send shivers down your spine. And let me tell you, not only the men of the gang, but the women also left their marks in history. This is the top dangerous female Yakuza bosses. Before diving in, let us discuss. What is Yakuza? Members of international organized criminal syndicates with their roots in Japan are known as Yakuza. Gangster is the English word for Yakuza, denoting a member of a criminal organization similar to the mafia. In Japan, the Yakuza remains active. The Anti-Boryokuden Act was put into effect in 1992. And while the number of Yakuza members has decreased since then, the Japanese National Police Agency estimated in 2022 that 11,400 Yakuza were still involved in illicit activities in Japan. The Yakuza are a diverse collection of syndicate factions that collectively make up one of the biggest organized crime networks in the world. They do not consist of just one gang. The three main Yakuza syndicates had been loosely united in recent years, and in April 2023, they hosted a social gathering. The gang makes the mafia look like a kindergarten and is known for committing mass murder, organ trading, and ritual pinky finger amputations. As well as having heavily tattooed bodies, the Yakuza can often be identified by their lack of a pinky finger. This is because members, who are initiated into gangs with sword fighting and meditation lessons, have them amputated as punishment if they step out of line, usually because they are unable to pay off gambling debts or fail to complete a task such as killing or importing drugs. The process known as yubitsu, which translates to finger shortening, dates back to the 18th century when the pinky finger was key for helping to grip the Japanese kendo sword. Without it, warriors are weaker and more reliant on their leader. Today, the ritual involves the members chopping it off themselves before handing it over to their boss, who keeps it as a trophy. If gang members continue to offend their bosses, they either face more yubitsu or expulsion. The latter is the worst punishment, as those who are kicked out are unable to associate with gang members for the rest of their lives. Former Yakuza members who have since returned to non-criminal society can struggle to find work due to their associations with the gang, so often wear specially made prosthetic fingers costing £1,500 to disguise it. The practice of finger shortening is thought to have died out in recent decades because it is an easy way for police to identify possible criminals. Despite their violent ways, the gang has a white-collar image, which sees them have offices, registered members, business cards, press conferences, and be praised for helping the 2011 earthquake and tsunami relief funds. They sent trucks from the Tokyo and Kobe regions to deliver food, water, blankets, and toiletries to evacuation centers in northeast Japan, getting there quicker than the Japanese authorities. Yakuza are dropouts from society, said the author Manabu Miyazaki, the son of a former Yakuza boss, told The Guardian recently. They've suffered, and they're just trying to help other people who are in trouble. The Yakuza are also known for their brazen assassinations, which happen as often in broad daylight as under the cover of darkness. In 2015, a Yakuza boss, Tatsuyuki Hishida, was found bludgeoned to death with his hands and feet bound with plastic cable ties. In 2007, the mayor of Nagasaki, Icho Ito, was shot twice in the back by a gang member, Tatsuya Shiru, over his administration's refusal to choose Yakuza firms for lucrative construction contracts. A 2012 study by Japan's National Police Agency found that 1 in 5 Japanese companies have admitted to paying the Yakuza off to avoid their extortion demands, even though in 2011 it became a crime to do so. Among these people, some women have stood out and shown differently. Let's discuss a couple of them, shall we? 1. Shoko Tendo. She is the author of the autobiographical book Yakuza Moon, Memoirs of a Gangster's Daughter. Born in 1968 into a family headed by a Yakuza, or Japanese gangster dad Hiroyasu Tendo, she underwent an arduous upbringing after falling into bad company at a tender age. Descended from medieval gamblers and outlaws, the Yakuza were long portrayed as latter-day samurai, bound by traditions of honor and duty while living extravagant lives. Dad was the gang leader linked to the Yamaguchi Gumi, the largest Yakuza group, and led a classic Yakuza life replete with Italian suits and imported fast cars. To be fair, Dad never really spoke about his Yakuza business while at home, and brought Tendo up to have impeccable manners. But surrounded by bad influences, Tendo flunked her early school education, morphed into a Yankee or teenage gangster, and lost her virginity to her first boyfriend when she was barely in junior high school. And as if life wasn't tough enough, she became addicted to thinner sniffing and speed or marijuana, and ended up in a reformative center after getting caught in a gang fight. 8 months later, she was released only to learn that Dad fell seriously ill with tuberculosis. Her family was in total shambles, cowering from daily visits by rowdy debtors amid mounting debts. In a state of numbness and denial, she continued her regular fix of drugs mixing with bad company, suffered from multiple rape incidents, and engaged in casual, sordid sex in love hotels. Shoko Tendo still has the scars from being brutally raped and beaten by her father's gangmates in a shabby hotel room as a teenager. Her dad forced her into sex slavery for 5 years before she escaped, reports The Sun. In short, she had become a total rebel, drifting aimlessly from day to day, and get this, she was barely 18 then. It was the kind of growing pains that would move any reader to tears. Life for Tendo then took on a different perspective at age 21, when she was bundled into a tattoo shop by an old acquaintance. Though she was exposed to irizumi or full-body tattoos throughout her life, it was the first time she had felt so deeply about skin art. Transfixed and true to her character, she impulsively decided to get herself tattooed from the base of her neck down to the tips of her toes, with a design centered on a geisha with a dagger in her mouth. And on each of her arms was a tattoo of dragons. Strangely, since getting the tattoos, her attitude took on a complete change and a whole new meaning. Such was the emotional power and influence of tattoos that they can turn a person ravaged by a rough upbringing around overnight. Literally, empowerment came when she had herself tattooed. Then, on her 22nd birthday, got married to a Yakuza member who had to chop off his left pinky to prepare for his marriage by leaving his gang. However, the joyous occasion had a bittersweet aftertaste for her, as she had been raped by her possessive and mentally unstable ex-boyfriend the day before. Shortly later, she was forced to abort her first child as she and her husband were simply too poor to afford to raise one. The reality was extremely harsh on both of them. The loss of both parents finally brought Tendo to her senses. Determined to leave behind her seedy past, she plunged her life into work, marked by the opening of her first savings account ever at 30 years old. In fact, she eventually managed to save enough to buy her parents proper, dignified burial plots. Now in her late 50s, Tendo is completely free from her turbulent past and leading a blissful life with her daughter, something which Tendo had resigned to not having for the longest time. Her life story has taught us to cherish and treasure our loved ones. Compared to what she underwent, most of the problems we face are simply too insignificant. 2. Fumiko Taoka. Fumiko Taoka, 66, became de facto head of the Osaka-based Yamaguchi-gumi crime organization after her husband Kazuo died in 1981. After Kazuo's death, the power had to be transferred to the boss's successor, but he was in prison and couldn't lead the clan, so then the power passed to Fumiko. Before Kazuo's death, she was a great influence on him, gave advice, and helped her husband with the necessary connections. She was his most trusted confidant and had a strong character, so the clan was in good hands. And yet it was originally supposed to be a mere formality that Fumiko would lead the Yamaguchi-gumi until the successor returned from prison, but he died suddenly, and Fumiko became the absolute leader. She picked Masahisa Takanaka to succeed her husband as the gang's leader in June 1984, leading to a division in the group. Disaffected gang members broke off to form a rival organization, the Ichiwa Kai, some of whose members gunned down Takanaka and 2 followers in January 1985, sparking a gang war. But the woman who at one time led Japan's largest underworld organization died in 1986 of a liver ailment. And that's it for this video. Please click the like and subscribe buttons down below if you found this interesting. To make sure you don't miss any uploads, tap the bell icon. Share the video with all your friends and family members. Provide all of your feedback in the comments section. We'll see you in the next one.